Y'all ready to go back to 2002 with some Christian Bale goodness? We got you covered on this episode of 0 Point Reviews. All right, Kevin, we're talking about Equilibrium 2002, Taye Diggs, Christian Bale, one-on-one. What did you think of this bad boy?
Wow, man, this was an interesting flick. Like, I've heard this title a lot in the last 20 years, but I'd never seen it before, so I had some really high expectations for it.
Now, had you ever seen this one in the theaters on video before, or was this your first time watching it before we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly?
This is my first time watching it. My first time.
Right on.
I've seen a lot of Christian Bale films. I'm not a Christian Bale fan, like as a person, but as an actor, I think he's fucking brilliant. So I really hate myself for that.
Oh, good for you. I don't have the audio clip or I would have played that.
No, I really do like him as like a good character actor. I don't like method actors at all.
But yeah, most of them are kind of nutty.
Nutty, douchey, whatever. And it's like we've seen like good examples of him professionally and publicly being douchey. Like he's not the worst, but he's certainly not a good one. But he is undoubtedly a fucking phenomenal actor.
Yeah, he's done some very iconic roles throughout history. Aside from the Batman thing and his weird ass Batman voice he's had in the 3 movies, you know, he's a pretty good Batman in some respects. He's not like the best, and he's certainly not the worst. George Clooney, but I would argue like The Prestige is very good, The Mechanic is very good, Equilibrium is very good, American Psycho is exceedingly good. And if we get enough comments in the section down below, make sure you comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts about Equilibrium, everybody. But you know, if we hear enough good comments about American Psycho, we might include that in Halloween Horror coming up this fall. So I want to hear about it. But he's got so many fun movies in his repertoire. Hell, I even like Terminator Salvation. I like it more than I like the third one, but that's still not saying a whole lot. I do understand that, everybody. But that's about where I stop with the Terminator franchise. But you know, I actually saw this one in theaters. I was in one of those 301 theaters it was released in when it came out in 2002. So I was lucky enough to see this in a theater at the time, and theater was packed. Everybody seemed to really like it, and it's directed by Kurt Weber, and he's done a few good movies throughout the years. So it's kind of interesting to see like where his career kind of went. He's done like Sphere, the Thomas Crown Affair as a writer and story stuff, but he also like directed like Ultraviolet with Mila Jovovich. He wrote kind of some remakes for Total Recall and Point Break. I would argue this is probably his best effort that he did with directing and writing the script. So it's awesome in some respects and not so awesome in other respects. But Kevin, let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of Equilibrium.
The good. My first thought of the good is
good font choice.
Thank you.
Excellent work, my man.
This is a stunning picture. Truly stunning picture. Like the lighting of it, the cinematography, the editing. This is a beautiful picture. You will not see a much prettier picture for the time without special effects. Like this is all lighting, all camera angles, all fight scenes, and it's just really well done.
Right. And any CGI that is in this movie is absolute bare minimum. You might see like a truck or a couple of trucks or some like, it seems like matte paintings kind of at the top of a screen or behind the screen, and a couple of doors that do some CGI effects. That's about it. Everything else relies strictly on the physical and practical effects of the camera workers and everything else in between. Like hell, even one of those first early fight scenes where basically you get the muzzle flash is lighting the scenes with Christian Bale, and he's taking out a room full of motherfuckers. It's so freaking badass. It sets the tone for the movie. And it's not even 5 minutes into the movie, and you're already like, shit, this is going to be a hell of a ride. Now, it does slow down pacing wise, but it is pretty well paced out with its editing and how the story beats tend to go. And I totally agree on the aesthetics of the film. The cinematography is stunning. It's very well done. And I would just add, the sound is also very good. The Foley work, the mic work, everything they did with the sound design. I had the rocking out in the living room. We don't even have the subwoofer hooked up, and the whole place was shaking based off the DVD I had from years ago from Dimension Films. Wow. So like the sound was just like, let's fucking go, man. It was so exciting. It was so much fun. My wife kept running into the room. She's like, hey, what's going on? Because she was like, since it's Father's Day, she was giving me a little treat for some drinks and things that she was doing in the kitchen. So that was really fun to see her coming in and be like, hey, can I watch this? I'm like, if you want to sit down, I'll rewind the damn thing. We're probably going to end up watching it again during the week so she can actually sit down and watch the whole thing all the way through, because it sounded like she was really interested. Although I'll save one of the bad points of this movie for the scene that she ran into, and I'm like, oh, you wanted to run into the room on this scene. Oh, maybe that wasn't the best choice.
There are better.
You could have waited for Christian Bale to get his shirt off first. But he never takes his shirt off. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, ladies.
Yeah, not in this one. No.
That's going to be in the bad feature where they don't really show Christian Bale all studly looking like they do in Batman.
Yeah, if you want that, skip Batman. Just go watch American Psycho. Like, there are no mysteries or secrets left to be held with that man.
No, absolutely not. But as far as like, I would say like Christian Bale really does carry this film. I would say he's like on the tops of one of the good parts of this movie. Without Christian Bale, I honestly don't know if I think I would like this movie in general. It reminds me a little bit of other movies around this time, like say The Matrix, Imposter, but this is way more serious. There's no lightheartedness to this movie, like at all. They play this straight and serious for science fiction. It's more of a dystopian future. So if you've seen like movies like Fahrenheit 451, like classics like Fahrenheit, not remakes of Fahrenheit 451. Let's keep that clear, everybody. But like the classics, it does carry themes from that while being its own movie. But Christian Bale absolutely crushes it in this role. You can easily see where that talent's going to show up later on in like the Prestige and the Batman movies.
Keep that in mind for later.
Fuck off. But to that accord, I would also say the movie is well casted. Yes. I like Taye Diggs, honestly. Or is it Ty or is it Taye Diggs? I want to make sure I get his name right.
I believe Taye.
I think he did very good in this movie. I wish he was just more in it. That'd be my only kind of comment on that, because he shows up after one of our favorite character actors kind of gets offed as per the usual in his contracts. Sean Bean.
Yep. 5 minutes in.
Nope.
Bye.
Nope.
No.
I am instituting a new little quick segment. If we cover a Sean Bean movie, I want to know how long until he dies. What's your guess, Kevin? I actually wrote down the time of death in this movie.
Okay. 12 minutes.
17 minutes, 41 seconds.
Fuck. That's not bad, but he plays a decent part. He's got some very good dialogue in it. Very good.
Oh my God. Yeah, the dialogue throughout is excellent, but Sean Bean really shines through. It's too bad he's not in it more, but he also sets the stage for the plot. Like, this is how we're going to start the movie, but you're now going to see how my former partner, who was straight and narrow and top-notch guy, is going to come down to my level and become aware of his emotions and everything else. And he's going to go down the same path that I did, but he's actually going to succeed.
Yes, but by the government's choice, sort
of. Up to their much chagrin at the very end when he actually does win.
Yes, yeah. They, of course, because the bad guys are narcissists. They always have to be overzealous. That's just the nature of bad guys. That's why they always lose.
Exactly. That's why we had another Batman reference in this movie with Sean Pertwee as the so-called father of everything, and he was Alfred in the Gotham TV show.
That's right.
So we got another Batman tie-in, everybody. This is almost like the tryout for being in a Batman project of some sort. Hey, we're 2 for 2, yo.
Just remember that for later.
God damn it. You're going to shit on this movie.
I am. What else? So we got the cast was fantastic. The movie is visually fantastic. The dialogue is all pretty fantastic. The action and fighting.
Bingo.
Golly. So at this point in time in cinema, every action film had to have a I know kung fu type moment like the Matrix. They all had to have their Matrix moment, whether it be a kung fu fight scene or bullet time fight scene like we were talking about earlier today. This doesn't have the bullet time fight scene. It doesn't have the budget for that.
Thank fucking God.
Agreed, because that got old fast. Like, it was good in The Matrix and it was good in Deuce Bigelow. That was about it. Like
any other of that slow motion shit, because I even remember Kung Pao, Legend of the whatever comedy fucking movie, and boy, did they mistreat that bullet time in that movie. It's like, okay, I'm kind of done with bullet time in movies. It's fun in video games. I'll admit that. Like, it's so much fun when you can get the gameplay to slow down and you can maneuver, target, or lock on, or do a fancy quick time event. That's fine in that form, but like movies, yeah, after the Matrix, I was kind of done.
I'll get to that before we get to the bad. Yes, but finishing up what I was saying, It didn't have any of that crap. And I really appreciated it for that. It had just the fight scenes. It was just the fundamentals of that action scene. And I really enjoyed that. And it kept that throughout the film. It wasn't just like, let's save it for the end. No, there was good action throughout. And it kept you entertained. It wasn't like nonstop balls to the walls.
No,
but it was when it happened, it was a special treat, because when Bale beat a group of guys, it was bad as hell because he was supposed to be the Grammaton cleric.
Yeah, and the tippy top of that, he was supposed to be basically their golden child. And what I like about the fights is they start off like, hey, this is pretty fucking dope, and they keep escalating with every fight. It becomes more and more, even more vicious, more visually entertaining, more frantic, more chaotic, and all the way up to the very, very end. And then you get to that fight. It feels like you're walking into boss battle mode with the last two motherfuckers. Then they have their little elite guard come out. They get beat. Then Taye Diggs' character's got to be like, all right, I guess I got to do this. And spoiler alert, he's done in record time in this movie.
Yeah, I had it written down that he was arrested.
Lost face in this movie.
Yeah. He had I can't beat that. Yeah, he gets his face cut off, his arms, like, just pretty much
got his ass handed to him, basically, is what happened there.
Yeah, right in front of Father, who's got this look on his face like,
oh shit, I gotta do this myself. Fuck.
I thought that one was supposed to be good. But that was just fantastic, because I didn't like Taye Diggs in this movie. I really didn't. This is probably the first movie where I didn't like him in.
Weird. I thought he was fine in this movie. I just think he wasn't used to his greatest extent, because he's supposed to be part of like the guy who's trying to goad Preston into like all these situations and guide him along, as you would find out in the movie. Like he's basically watching and encouraging him to hit a certain level so they could obtain and wipe out the rebellion as like the sleeper, non-sleeper. It felt like there's a lot of double and triple betrayals going on here at the very end. And you know, the first time you watch it, you might be like, what the fuck? That sounds very convoluted. And to some, it very well is. But for like me, I was able to follow it along the very first time. And I thought it was well done because it backfired on him. And Christian Bale's character of Preston ultimately wins out in the end. And because they weren't expecting him to actually pull all the way through with it. They thought, oh, well, we broke this guy down. Now we can fucking kill him. And he just kind of keeps coming like the fucking Terminator at the end. So, but for Taye Diggs' character, I felt they could have done more with him. But the second he started showing like this anger, emotion, I'm like, oh, this dude's up to fucking more than just, I'm watching him, I might turn him in, I'm onto him. It became more of, no, he was clearly tipping off like, I'm going to make my career on you. And he was saying it from the word go. And as you watch his emotions, he became so excited to be bringing in Preston and subjecting him to the final justice.
It's his pride. He was high,
and that's an emotion you're not allowed to feel in this world. So seeing that kind of pride, the smirks and the looks, it's like, this dude's not on the sauce either.
That must have been it, because obviously, like, to me, everybody that had speaking lines in this movie that didn't die was not on the sauce. Like, everybody was lying and cheating because they showed way too much emotion. Except for the kids. The kids were fucking fantastic.
The kids sold the movie overall, because in the very, you find out once the kid says, "Good night, Dad," it's like, you've been calling him John the whole movie. Oh shit.
Yeah, I kind of caught that. Like, that was off-putting, is the first time you called him John. Like, that was weird.
And then he was so hard and straight and narrow. I mean, you knew the daughter was, something was kind of going on with the daughter, but the son, and he's like, "Dad, you got to be hiding this shit better, yo." It's like the kid's telling us, "Dad, you got to hide your drugs better." Just totally popped me this time. I just started laughing. Amy came into the room. She's like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "Let me rewind this for you." She's like, "Oh, that's pretty good."
Yeah, because the obvious thought was the kid's going to turn in his dad, because that's the right thing to do. I assumed that was going to, Angus was going to have the little boy saying, "Oh, he told us everything." But no, they went a much more interesting route, saying the kids decided to stop taking their medicine after mom died.
And they knew how to play the game better than their dad.
Yeah. It was cute. Like, they actually managed to make me smile on that part. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
And the kids weren't stupid. So
no. They appeared to be, but they were not.
Yeah. All right, Kevin. Oh, you got a question or a thought there?
No, that was it.
All right, let's get into it. The bad, brother.
Oh, let's start with this suit.
I'll give you that one. I mean, I like the look, but in actual function, it didn't work for me, because if you're gonna wear a white like that and you're about to get into a sword fight scene, that coat should be fucking coated in red by the end of it.
Oh, it was. Wasn't it? Right.
But but you never see him get fucking cut. God fucking I was looking all afternoon. Are there deleted scenes or not for this movie? And this has been on Blu-ray and DVD. The Blu-rays suck. Don't buy the fucking Blu-rays. The quality is horrible. Get the DVD. It looks a lot better. Trust me. I got both. Wow. The DVD is better. But I couldn't find a damn thing about deleted scenes for this movie, because in the last scene you see him in with the battle against, father, quote unquote, and everybody else, when he walks out of that room, there's no cuts. There's no blood coming down anywhere on him at all. And the next scene you see him in, he's got this big old cut on his neck and he's bleeding all the way down to his right hand. What the fuck happened? Clearly there's a deleted scene, or they did reshoots. My guess is they did reshoots in the previous fight, and they didn't clear up the consistency going into that next scene. I noticed this when I first saw the movie. I noticed it again now. And to this date, I'm guessing reshoots, but it kind of is a little off-putting for a detail guy like me, especially when this movie is so well put together already. It's hard to tell, like, you had a reshoot here, you had a reshoot there. Most of the time, you're never supposed to be able to tell that. This is a time where I'm like, what did they cut out? Or what did they cut and they had to reshoot? And they're like, hey, let's fix this fight. But, oh shit, that's right. He's bleeding in the next scene. Shit.
Fuck, we forgot.
So I am going to call it out on that. Like, that's a consistency problem. I'd almost call it a plot hole, because it's like, how the hell does he get a fucking cut on his neck?
Kind of, yes. And why is it so obvious when there's been no blood in the rest of the film? Blood is substituted by glass and ice in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, you see glass shatter everywhere, or ice shatter everywhere.
Or confetti. When you see blood, it's kind of in the darkness, so it's not so popping out.
Yeah, or it's a very teeny tiny drop that starts to drip off the tip of the blade.
Exactly.
But they were trying very hard to make sure that this movie got a certain rating, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to show the blood, but they held out for that one mark at the end. But what happens at that scene, to me, was so silly and stupid that it must have been a reshoot. Like, they just needed to do something. Yeah. Because it ends with him stopping all the propaganda material, all the video feeds, by shooting the monitors. Each time he shoots the monitor, he's turning off the propaganda across the city.
Yeah.
Y'all, unless you're watching an 80s movie, monitors don't work that way. Like, they don't control shit.
Yeah, he should have just killed, like, the tower broadcasting the feed, not the actual computer terminals that were supposed to be just monitoring that the feed was actually being broadcast.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a couple things there at the very end. It's like, it's not so bad that'll kill the movie for you. It's just like, yo, you did so good up until the last, like, couple minutes. Like, what are we doing here, everybody? Could have just cut straight to the very end where he kills father, and then the bombs go off, the city goes up, and then you clue on the scene where he walks out and he gives you a little smirk at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, that would have been just fun.
You could have just cut out. You didn't fucking need that particular scene, and you could have removed that consistency problem at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. It wouldn't have been necessary to have him magically appear elsewhere after the final battle. Having further battles that were unceremoniously off screen.
Yeah.
After the final battle. Anyway. I kind of zero pointed there on the bad.
Just talking about the bad, brother.
I know, the bad. I was going to interact that with the fight scenes and the fight scenes that he didn't have, because, again, they were unceremoniously off screen.
All right.
What else did I have?
Well, what I put down for some of the bad was I didn't like how basically the resistance for the first half of the movie is just basically like non-existent. You keep hearing about it, and then about halfway through, you just kind of inject, oh yeah, this is all about taking out basically the resistance. Like, this has been this great plan, but you didn't even start the movie with any sort of like, hey, these are resistance fighters. You assume the first group of people they kill in this are resistance, or just some people that committed some crime and they're just hiding out in a freaking room or something. So it's a little jarring when they finally start talking resistance, and it builds and builds and builds, and then it's finally like, oh yeah, this whole thing is about trying to take out the resistance. You would have done better having Edgar Friendly from Demolition Man in here running around screaming, I want my Playboys and Taco Bell, and running around naked while having a shower.
Although, looking back, I thought I noticed him the first time I watched it. William Fichtner's at the very beginning of the movie, where everyone's like sitting there watching the propagandist video in the courtyard. I was like, hey, wasn't that?
Yeah, I would have thought they would have used him a little more, but once he finally does show up in an actual speaking role,
it was a good role.
He's featured enough in the movie throughout the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a good role for him. It was better than what he usually gets in movies where it's like he's the bad guy and dies horribly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like him in movies. But anyway.
Yeah, he's very good. He's also in a fantastic TV show. I think it's Invasion by Sean Cassidy.
That sounds very familiar.
We might be covering that next year on the show.
Oh, it's not like Sean Cassidy movie or Sean Cassidy shows aren't in our wheelhouse.
Goddamn right they are. American Gothic, Roar with Heath Ledger. Might be doing that one too. Just saying.
Was that a movie or is that a TV show?
That was a TV show, brother.
Oh.
It was on Fox. Another Fox TV show canceled by everybody else.
That no one else heard of.
Yep, and that's why we're going to cover it.
No, but the going back to the blood and the fight scenes, I liked the fight scenes that they had. They were all awesome. They were close quarters combat. And you saw that a lot. They talked about it a lot in the development of it post World War II in the game Metal Gear Solid 3.
Right.
So if you like the history of fighting, there's a neat little blurb about that in the game, but they show a lot of it and the proper use of it in this movie, more so than the gun kata, because gun kata is kind of made up. And I guess that'll be part of the bad as well as the good. The fight scenes in this are phenomenal, but also incredibly impractical.
Well, it's very early on where they were starting to incorporate these kind of elements into American cinema. So they had a little catching up to do with the rest of the world.
Yes, but again, this is not Wanted. This isn't Curve the Bullet. It's still pretty fucking cool. Like I couldn't make.
Oh, okay, I catch your reference now. I'm like, Wanted? It's not Wanted. Of course, this shit is Wanted. Oh, you mean the movie Wanted?
No one wants this shit, Jeff.
Well, once I heard you say Curve the Bullet, I'm like, oh, I get you now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
Which
not
is the goofiest shit I've ever fucking heard of in a movie. And I like that movie, so don't get me wrong, but
okay, so the video game that I really like, the VR video game Pistol Whip, is all gun kata. And the way the game works is you have your two little gauntlets here. We'll just call them guns for lack of a better term. You shoot there, and you're moving down this tunnel. And if there's somebody close to you, say in the middle, within your arm length, you could hit them with your gun, pistol whip them, if you will. And there are levels where you just go through and you start clocking people with various weapons. And it's fucking awesome. And I didn't realize that a lot of this game came from that movie. So for as kind of cheesy as this movie is, because it is an action flick, I give it great respect because everything, all the stunt work is incredibly professional in this. It gave us an incredibly great game. But when you're doing this shooting, I'm going to be the first one to say I'm savage as fuck. But if you turn off the auto aim or the auto assist,
yeah, I can see that.
Run, they're going to get you.
Oh, yeah, I totally get that. I mean, some of the fight scenes do feel very video game-ish. And, yes, they could have been a little bit better, and they're still early on, but they got a lot of energy and enjoyment out of them. But I can see what you're saying about that.
Yes. And again, when I say this, I've already raved about how good the fight scenes were. I just have to call kind of the impracticality of
no, I get you
under the bad part because it is really kind of silly.
Oh, but yeah, it does get a little over the top at times, is what you're trying to say.
Yes, but that's also why they didn't do it, but maybe like 3 or 4 times in the movie.
Right, they kept it minimal, as opposed to something like, say, John Wick, where it's like every 10 minutes we need to have some sort of badass action sequence going on, which this movie kind of lifts a little, or is lifted from in John Wick. There are like dog and puppy scenes. Dogs get killed, and motherfucker starts killing everybody after that.
Gotta
save the puppy. Save the puppy.
See, that was a cheap pop, as they would call it in wrestling. You know that. That's a good way to get a quick reaction from the crowd. Kill an animal. Kill a kid.
And that's going to be a part of my ugly section. As we'll get to that in a moment here. But yeah, that's a cheap pop, and I wasn't a big fan of that scene. But you know, there is the relevant. Hey, I'm going to save the puppy, and he saves the puppy.
Yes, and that does work as an plot engine to like further him becoming a hero or more of a human.
Yeah, more human, yes.
But golly, they kind of flubbed it in a way. It wasn't
a little bit. They lost track of that plot towards the end where he just got singular and trying to kill father. So
yeah, and fortunately, you see the little girl with the dog at the end. So I'm kind of like, okay, fine.
They kind of got it back a little bit with that, but
yes, but they did lose my respect points for that. Like there are more intelligent ways to show the audience that they kept animals or nobody else understands why they keep animals for emotional pets.
Yeah, for emotional attachments and whatnot. Because in this world, you are not allowed to feel anything at all because everybody is properly doped up on Prozium. And we are, just to let everybody know, we are proudly not sponsored by Prozac. So if you have an issue with feeling something, we are not the problem. They are. So thank you, Prozac, for not proudly sponsoring us this week.
We are your solution.
Damn right we are.
We'll make you feel something.
Oh, yeah.
Not always something great, but we'll make you feel something.
And then maybe we could feel something when we get to the ugly, Kevin.
The ugly. Let's see, where did it go? I have it here.
UGLY. You ain't got no alibi. You ugly.
You ugly. Oh, so we've got this wonderful scene here where they find the Mona Lisa and they do an authenticity test on it. And they go, it's real. And he smiles like, oh, we've found it. They're recovered the art piece.
Burn this fucker to the ground. I'm paraphrasing everybody. They don't really swear in this movie.
No, they don't. But he does definitely say, burn it. And like he had like
legit, burn it.
Yeah, like a little bit of spite in his voice, like it's dirty, get rid of it.
Oh yeah.
And they torch it right then and there, and I couldn't help but think to myself, goodness, plagiarism is such a dirty word.
It just reminded me of like Batman 89, where Joker has everybody like slaughtering all these paintings, or it's like, man, you guys are even worse than Batman 89. They just want to incinerate everything.
No, we took this scene from that, we took this scene from this, we took this scene from that, and we put it all in this fucking movie and went, whoop, how do you like this?
It's inspiration. I never felt like it was ripping anything off. So that's what I'll say to that point.
And I don't know, maybe had we not watched Total Recall last week, I wouldn't see the connection between what's his name? Not Proctor. Christian Bale's name in this.
Preston,
yes. There's a definite like link between him and Quaid being that unknowing double agent that he didn't want to be, but then overcoming that person that he should have been. It wasn't bad. They did it a little bit differently, but there was most certainly a parallel there. Very visible parallel.
Up to a certain extent. He does not get the girl in the end. He doesn't get anybody in the end, and the wife doesn't come back to life. So he doesn't have this happy ending. He just has this ending where he killed father, the world is getting reset, and his kids are okay.
His kids are okay. His kids are happy. His kids are going to get him back eventually. They know everything's fine. Yep. He wasn't going to get the girl. He shouldn't have had the fucking girl. Why? Because that wasn't his girl. He was simping over his dead partner's girlfriend that he fucking killed.
The reason why he had an emotional connection to her, though, is because he killed his best friend and his former partner, and he was feeling utterly responsible about her particular situation, even though she was a censor. and she was violating the crimes, but he was feeling bad about putting her in that position after he had already put her in that position. And then he still has to go and fucking watch her die and feel like, how do I redeem myself now? Because bitch is dead and there's no bringing her back. I ain't getting my wife back. What else is there for me? At least at that particular moment, he's reduced to utter rubble. And that's when Ty Diggs' character swoops in and he's like, I've been waiting for this moment the whole movie, bitch. Hauls him off, and then all the plot twists start happening.
Yes. I would have much rather seen the explosion at street level. That would have been much more fun. But
there's no security guards there.
Yes, I suppose. But watching her burn wasn't the worst thing either. That worked as a way to have him have something to avenge, like Agent Coulson.
Yeah, I got to make up for killing 2 people now that I shouldn't have killed.
Yeah, so he now has the answer to the question that he first asked her. Do you know what it feels like to feel guilt? Like you said, do you know what it feels like to feel hate, vengeance? Like he now has that in his heart, and he's going to use it. So he's finally got nothing left to lose, like you said, other than his kids. But the dog's got them. They're fine.
Supremely protected by this vicious little puppy.
The boy's going to be the next fucking chancellor of the new government. You'll see.
Well, they've never done a sequel, and they probably never will. But what was really kind of, just to tie back to the puppy thing just a quick second, is when he took the puppy and he was starting walking away, and he's like, this thing's got to be tested for disease. I made a comment to my wife, yeah, a disease of cuteness. It's a cute puppy. Got to be tested for cuteness. She's like, it should be cute-itis.
Cute-itis. It's licking its ass. We may need to see something.
Could be worms.
Could be worms. It could be worms. It needs to be tested.
Got to be tested for disease, yeah. It could be too cute for everybody. Cuteness will kill you. Cuteness will compel you. I don't think Kevin was expecting me to say that.
No. But the last thing I really had for the ugly, and I say this as a joke more than anything, is this movie is Christian Bale's audition tape for Batman. Totally Christian Bale's audition tape for Batman. He's just playing Bruce Wayne again. He's a very reluctant hero. Like, he's not wanting to feel, but he is all of a sudden. And he's got this moral conscience that he's supposed to be doing something that's different. And again, it's not bad, but you definitely see it leading into Batman a couple of years later.
That and American Psycho combined are probably his audition tapes for the Batman. Or not the Batman, but Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't have much ugly outside of, like, basically on home video, this thing needs a proper goddamn release and be put on a streaming service because it's really hard to find otherwise. Kevin, I didn't ask you, like, how were you able to see this actually?
This was I pirated it from my friends. They had it on our Plex server that we share.
Okay, so you got it on Plex, and what I would argue is, like, one of the ugliest things about this is it had such a small theatrical release, and it's been abysmal on home video outside of the DVD. All the Blu-rays kind of suck unless you get, like, this imported Japanese or Italian Blu-ray, which are expensive. They're really hard to get. And like this is a Dimension film, which means it's Miramax, which means it's either with Paramount or it's with somebody else who knows. But this movie could use a nice updated release, like we just got with The Crow. A nice little, doesn't have to be a 4K, but a 4K transfer would be nice, or 2K, just to even update it and put it on a high definition format of sorts so that other people can actually go and check this movie out. So my ugly is basically how the movie was treated in its marketing to the theaters and then how it got treated on home video. It's unfortunate, but I think that's not led to it having as cult classic status as it should have. But when you ask people who have seen this movie what they think about it, just about everybody says it's really good, to I fucking love this movie. And there is middle ground, but I've never heard anybody straight up say this movie is a piece of shit and it sucks, it's boring, it's whatever. Yeah. I've heard nobody talk on that level. Like, you might be the bottom scale of, I liked it, it's got issues, but it was fun and I enjoyed it. And I'm sure we'll get to that in the overall assessment, but that's just kind of where I'm figuring on a spectrum. For most people who have seen this movie, at least like it. So it doesn't have that kind of connotation of, man, what kind of like unknown fucking shithole movie is this? This ain't that kind of movie. What you would get later on with Kurt Wimmer, with Ultraviolet and Mila Jovovich, is a shit movie, though.
I own that.
I don't. It's the only Mila Jovovich movie I don't have, and it's for a fucking good reason. That movie was a piece of shit.
Brandy yelled at me. She watched it on streaming, and she's like, "We own this? Why?" Before we got married.
Yeah, she was the hot one. You weren't. You don't watch our fucking show anyway. I'm kidding. As Kevin takes a drink, and there's his last drink as he's left alive.
I'm gonna go put my cup on before I go to bed. Thank you.
You're gonna need it with the dog and the wife.
Oh,
all right, Kevin. Final judgment time.
Final judgment. Let's see here.
Oh, puppy! It's got cute-itis, everybody.
It came down to the cute-itis for me. Really, is what it did. Had they killed the dog, I probably would have written this movie off. I really would.
Then it would have been a John Wick where they got this fucking idea from.
No, it would have been. It would have been really cheap. It would have been cheaper than what I've already said it was. That scene was cheap to me as it is.
Right.
But the movie was pretty good. It was okay to pretty good. I'm in that mid-range. Had I seen this movie in the theater when it came out, I probably would have really enjoyed this and been blown away.
Yeah.
But I've seen V for Vendetta. I've read V for Vendetta before this came out.
Comic book is better than the movie.
Yes, it is, but it's still that 1984 Orwellian type, or Asimov, any of those dystopian future type stories. This takes from a lot of that. Now, to your point, it's not ripped off. So I can't say this is just straight plagiarism. It's not, but it takes a lot.
Well, I find it to be a more of a modern update to Fahrenheit 451, maybe 84 a little bit. But if you're saying like this is ripping off V for Vendetta, I totally disagree. I think that movie completely missed the boat. I'm not a fan of that fucking movie, like, at all. But I can see your point. But I'm sorry to interrupt. You're on final judgment time.
Oh, no. It's just elements that they took from it.
Yeah.
Like the censored content and shit like that. The art.
Well, they're destroying like everything with any sort of emotional attachment to it. So it's a little different than that.
Yeah.
And suppressing everybody with a fucking drug.
That was different. I didn't dislike that. Again, I didn't dislike the movie. There wasn't really much other than people who are supposed to not have any feelings or emotions showing so much emotion all the time. Like, that was the only critique I really had. Otherwise, this is a fun flick. It's not bad. If I could find it on DVD, I'm most certainly going to pick it up because I do like the action scenes. I do like seeing Christian Bale beat people's asses. He's a good fighter. He truly is.
Oh, yeah.
Granted, this is the same fighting that he does in Batman Begins. The exact same moves. So
this was the tryout session, everybody.
This was his audition tape. They're like, all right, now do that thing you did. So, I don't know.
No, I agree for the most part. Like, this is a seriously fun movie. I haven't actually watched it in a very long time. My wife even seemed to get pulled into this, and this usually isn't her shtick, but as she kept checking certain scenes out, and I'll tie back real quick to the other thing on The Ugly is I didn't really like the implications of the dog death scene where they were killing all the other dogs, but the puppy did get saved. So it served a purpose, but I didn't really like that in general. I felt like that was a bit on the ugly side of this movie. You didn't have to go that cheap. You were already like killing people and destroying like all these emotional attachment items. You didn't have to go for the pets sort of thing. But that aside, I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's super fun. Haven't seen it in a long time. And it's definitely worth watching if you can go track down a DVD. You can find it streaming somewhere. I don't know where it's streaming. I haven't seen it streaming anywhere, but Kevin found it on Plex due to very good friends of his. So that's super awesome. And I love this story. I think Christian Bale is fantastic in it. Action scenes are dope as shit. Visual effects at times, when you see them, you notice them. They're early 2000s CGI. Like the semi trucks or the tactical trucks you see that are kind of floating on the ground don't actually look like they're on the actual ground that they're driving on. So just understand going in, like, this is a bit of an older movie. I'd watch this over Reign of Fire every time because this is more my wheel well. I like my dystopian futures. I like futuristic stuff in general. I watched this with Imposter a lot because that was a fun movie too with Gary Sinise back then. And but that had its own tragic story behind it about how that was made, shot, and then they had to reshoot like 2/3 of the fucking movie. So there's like 2 cuts of that on the DVD that I own, which I'll never get rid of. Ooh. But I love science fiction from this era. They were taking chances. They did gun kata in this movie. So action scenes are just so much fun when they happen. You are treated to them because it's not an action movie all the way through. There's good drama. I like some of the twists. The big thing I like in the very end is when they feel like they got him conned into, we used you this whole entire time. And then the little polygraph goes deadline. And the only swear word in this movie is then uttered like within a split second of, oh shit. Because they realize he was letting his emotions take over, waiting for the moment so that he could strike, letting them think they got away with all this bullshit. Then he, snap of a finger, dialed it in, started smoking motherfuckers all the way to the very end of the movie. So you root for the good guy. Just wish there's a little more consistency between certain scenes. But overall, I really like this movie. I would encourage everybody to go check this movie out. So I would probably give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. I know I just said I love this movie and I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. I'm deducting points for various things like inconsistencies, certain scenes I didn't really dig. No movie's ever going to be like totally flawless, but I put this on an upper echelon for Christian Bale movies. Like I just said, I take this over Reign of Fire any day, where he starred with Matthew McConaughey in basically a modern day dragon movie.
Without dragons.
It had dragons, but they weren't really dragons. And they mimicked a Star Wars scene in that, if you remember right, too.
I don't.
Then don't watch it again. I'll watch this movie instead. This or The Prestige are 2 of my favorite Christian Bale movies outside of the Batman ones.
Yeah, The Prestige is a pretty flawless film.
Him and Jackman are dope as hell in that movie.
And David Bowie.
Please.
Tesla, baby. He was Tesla.
All right, Kevin, any final thoughts before we say goodbye to everybody on Equilibrium?
No, other than the fact that, golly, this makes looking what I do on video games look really cool. And now I have a visual of what I can look like, what I don't, but what I could look like in my head while I'm doing
to get this on camera, yo.
We'll see what I can do.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Equilibrium, starring Christian Bale, Taye Diggs, Sean Pertwee, too. Well, for a brief moment anyway. So if you like this video, please hit that like button down below. Got any favorite thoughts, memories, comments about this movie? I want to hear them. Put them down below as well. And if you like this video, also hit that subscribe button. Hit the little bell notification. We are working our way up to 7,000 subscribers. Come and join us, everybody. Let's fucking go. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Sons and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Sons and Shadows Cast. We are at sonsandshadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.